And as we start today, I'm going to kind of launch a poll here. And if you would type in or answer if you're a faculty, staff, undergraduate, graduate, community member, that kind of just helps us to know. All right, looks like we're getting some good responses there. I'll give it just a few more seconds. Excellent, we're at 82% have voted. All right, well, thank you so much for answering that. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, all right, 91%. And I'm going to go ahead and close it. And it looks like we've got about 40% staff, 20% undergraduate, and 40% graduate. So we've got a lot of students here today. That's great. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's kind of go ahead and dive in. We've got a good feeling, I think, of where we're at. So we're all new to Macintosh computers. That's what we're here for. So I remember when I first started with the Mac, it was for an undergraduate class I was taking at the time. It was a news layout class, and I had to use a Mac for the first time. And I grew up in a PC house using a PC computer. I had a PC laptop. And it was just a little bit intimidating to make the transition from one to the other. So what we want to do today is kind of unveil the mystery, so to speak, and get you a little bit more comfortable with the Macintosh personality, if you will. So kind of getting to know, it's a little bit different with the PC, and I won't tell you that one's better than the other. I do have a personal preference of what I like to work with, but each one has its merits. So that's our first objective. Next, we're going to see kind of how to set up your preferences. So how to set it just the way that you want to be most comfortable. So get to know it, set it up the way that you want to, and then making your employees or applications, if you will, work for you. So making that computer do what you want it to do. All right. So the first thing that I'd kind of like to point out is that computers they're made to simulate real-world objects, right? So, so for example here, we've got Microsoft Word was meant to simulate the same functions as a typewriter. So if you're walking into your office and the first thing in the morning, your office or cubicle, what's the first place that you go to? Or maybe you're going to work on some homework or something like that. Where would you go to? Well, the first place you go, usually, would be your desk, right? So when I walk in the morning, I go to my desk, and I have the files and different things that I need to use for that day on my desktop. So in a similar way, in our computer, we've got our desktop that we only really want the files that we're going to be using on a regular basis or that day to keep it nice and neat and not cluttered. But you'll notice just how we have some items that we use a lot on our desktop, like pens and staplers and things like that. You'll find in the Macintosh desktop that there's things that you'll use on a regular basis to help you get your job done. All right, so the next thing that you've got in your office, let's say you've got files on your computer and you realize, okay, I don't need all these on my computer. You put them in your file cabinet, right? So on the Macintosh, in the Macintosh environment, the file cabinet is basically called Finder. So you can see the little icon there. And that's basically the Macintosh equivalent to the PC My Computer. I believe it's now just called Computer in the most recent version. But it's the same a very similar function. So we're going to get into Finder a little bit more later. But it's a really important place to go because that's where all of your files are kept. And we'll kind of talk about navigating that a little bit later on. All right, so next we want to talk about a little bit, we kind of talked about earlier if you're managing your applications, right? So let's assume for a second that you're a film director, right? You've got all these different people working to make the scene come out just right. You've got your actors and everybody involved to make it look just right. But it's your job to make sure everything's functioning to create the product that you want. So in the same way, we've got all kinds of different applications or apps on the Macintosh computer, and we want to make sure that we use them, manage them to make them perform the way we want, right? So there's 3 different options that we're going to talk about real quickly. So the first one is the dock. And the dock, you'll notice, and we'll see an example of this in just a minute, is basically all the quick links that you're going to want to use on a regular basis. So it'll usually be across the bottom of your screen, and you can customize where you want that and some other things about it. And then we've also got the Launchpad. And the Launchpad is pretty neat because it will show you all of your applications. You can press a button or click on that little icon right there. You see the little rocket ship. And it'll show all the applications on your screen so you can click on it and open it easily. Then there's Mission Control. And for me personally, I am a big fan of Mission Control. I use this a lot. So many times I will have 3 or 4 different applications open. So I'll have Outlook and InDesign, Illustrator, all these different programs open, and I want to switch back and forth, and Mission Control makes it easy to do that. And we'll show you that one in just a second. All right, so here's what Launchpad looks like. If you hit, on the newer Mac keyboards, it's an F4. You can see that there's 6 little squares there lined up. If you hit that, this is what pops up on your screen. Or if you don't have that button, you can always click on that little rocket ship down in the dock. And again, there's the dock. That's what that looks like across the bottom. So you've got all your different applications here. Here we go. All right, so here's the dock. And so if I came up here and clicked on one of these applications, it would launch it from there. Another feature that's nice is that search bar. You can type in the search. And then you've got folders of different applications. Right here, I want to point this part out. It's kind of hard to see, but there's those little white dots. If you click on one of those, it would take you to another page filled with applications. So next, I want to point out Mission Control, which is nice and down here at the bottom in the dock as well. There we go. If you click on Mission Control, this is what it looks like on your screen. It basically takes all the open windows and kind of shrinks them down so you can easily see at a glance what's open on your desktop. So then you can come over and click on any one of those, and it would bring it to the front and make it the active window. All right. Another thing I want to point out, and this is pretty important. If you'll look at the very bottom of your screen, it may be kind of hard to see, but you'll notice down here, let's look under it. Here's the calendar. You see that little white light down here? Oops, there we go. The little white light towards the bottom. You can see it under several of the applications. That means that that program or application is currently open on your desktop. And we'll talk about this more in a minute, but you can close a window without closing the application, which is very unlike a PC. All right, so that's kind of a look at Mission Control. So let's take a minute and let's just test our knowledge and see where we're at so far. Lorene, I'll turn it back over to you for a minute.
Okay, I'm going to keep this open for another second, and looks like we have about 75% voted. And I'm going to go ahead and close this poll. So there's a couple more still voting. What are 3 ways to manage our computer's program? The dock, the pool, the Launchpad, Mission Control, and the Captain's Bridge. Let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and close that poll, and I'll see if what we've got here. All right.
All right. All right.
Muted.
That's excellent. All right. Well, I had to throw in the Captain's Bridge there just for fun. But you guys have got it. So the dock, Launchpad, and mission control. And to be honest, I don't use Launchpad very much, but it could be useful for you if you like doing that. I've got another way that I like to open applications. Usually, if I'm going to open something on a regular basis, I keep it here in the dock, which you'll see at the bottom of the screen. And we can add things to the dock as well if you've got something that you use on a regular basis. All right, so let's dive in to get started looking at our desktop. So there's kind of an analogy. So if you're driving a car, there's two things that you always have to use, which would be the steering wheel and the pedals, right? If you don't want to crash. So what we're looking at on our desktop, there's two things that you always have to use when you're using a Macintosh. That's the windows and the menus. So some of these things are very similar to a PC, so you would be aware of that. But some of them are a little bit unique to the Macintosh environment. So that's what we really want to highlight today, is the unique differences between the PC and the Mac. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Safari here, and I'm going to just add another tab. There we go. So I've got Safari open here. And you'll notice I opened it by clicking on Safari in the dock, and I can resize it by clicking and dragging on the sides, from the corners. One thing I do want to point out is this double arrow right here in the top right-hand corner of that window. That's something that you may want to avoid just at first. But if you want to expand it to fit your whole screen, you just want to make sure, when I say you want to avoid it, you just want to make sure if you're trying to resize the window without expanding it all the way, that you don't come up to this corner, because you can't really drag it from there. So if you click on this diagonal arrow there, you can click on it, it expands it to your full screen. So it covers the entire thing. And I remember the first time I did this, I did it accidentally, and I started to panic because they're like, how do I make it stop? So what you do is you just take your mouse and slide it to the top of your screen. I didn't click or anything, I just moved my mouse all the way to the top of the screen, and you'll notice that menu pop back down. I'm going to do that again. So if I come down here, move my mouse to the top of the screen, and it pops down for me. Top right-hand corner, you see the blue arrows there. I can click on that, and it brings it back to the size it was before. So just remember, move your mouse all the way to that top edge, and the menu will pop down for you. Okay, so we've got Safari open. I want to open up something else as well. Let's try, here, let's open up Word. Word will be good. Okay, so I've got Word open now. And you'll notice sometimes it's a little bit different than a PC as well, especially with the Adobe products. On a Mac, you can kind of see around it to the desktop a little bit more than you might with a PC. But also, so I've got my different windows here. If I click on a window, it makes it the active window and brings it to the front of the screen. And you'll notice while I'm doing this, look up here, here is the application menu. So whatever window is active, you'll notice instead of like with a PC where it is attached to the window, with a Mac, it's always going to be at that the top bar. That's where your application window is going to be. So right now we can see it says Word. If I click on Safari, you'll notice it changes to Safari. So whichever one is the active window is the one that will display at the top. All right, so we've talked about resizing, switching between active windows. Let's go ahead and talk about these options here. These are exciting here. We'll do this one since it has all three. So you'll notice it looks different. If you're wondering where the X and the minimize are in the Mac, this is their equivalent. So I'll start with the right one. This is like the maximize button, but it doesn't exactly maximize. So when you click it the first time, it makes it nice and large, but you'll notice when I click it again, it brings it back in. So mine is not behaving for me. So let's try it again. There we go. I'm not sure why I did that. So if I click it once, it makes it large, and if I click it again, it brings it back to the size it was before. The minimize button is the yellow one right here. If I click it, it does like you would expect in a PC, and it pulls it down to the bottom right-hand side. So right over near the trash can area. If you'll notice there's a little line there that kind of separates the dock area with open windows that are minimized. So I'm going to click on that again, and it brings it back out to the forefront of the screen. All right. Next, let's go ahead. Oh, here we go. We've got to move on to the red button here. Almost skipped it. Okay, so this is where it gets quite a bit different from a PC. If you hit the red X button, what you're doing is closing the window, but not the program. So watch the top menu here. When I hit the red X, you'll notice that menu still says Safari. So I'm going to click File, New Window, and it just brings back another window. So you want to make sure, sometimes it's handy to close a window, but not close the program. So let's say you're using iTunes or something like that. You want to have music running, but you don't want the window up on your screen. You could close the window and leave the program running. But in other times, like if you've got a lot of intense programs running, so let's say you've got InDesign, the huge document running, and you've got other programs running, it may end up slowing your computer down. So you want to make sure that you close programs or applications when you're not using them. So to do that, you're probably wondering, okay, tell us how. All right, so it's in the file here. We're going to go up to the top. You'll see here's Safari. So it's in the application menu. Anytime you see the name, you can click on that and it pops down the menu with options for that program. So I could click Quit Safari and it will quit Safari. All right. There's other options here too. Preferences, and those are going to be specific for that application. So if you wanted to set your preferences for Safari, that's where you would come. We'll talk about system-wide preferences in a minute. While we're talking about menus, I want to point out the File, Edit, and View options. Those are menus that you're almost always going to see. Some applications don't have them, but most of them will. So you'll see here, there's File, Save, Print, Edit. Usually going to have some kind of spelling and grammar option, View. The last one I like to point out, and this is one of my things that I really like about a Mac, and this is very helpful if you've got a program with lots and lots of menus, like Photoshop, for example. So if I'm looking for something in Photoshop and I can't remember which menu it's in, I remember the name, I want some kind of filter, but I can't find it. You can come over to the help and type in the search field. So this one I'm just going to type in print here. There we go. I want to find a print. I can hover over it and it will show me exactly where it is in the menus. That has saved me a lot of time from trying to go through every menu and find what it is I'm specifically looking for. All right, so I just wanted to point that out to you. All right, great. So we've gone through windows and menus. So let's go ahead and move on to a little bit more broad system-wide preferences. I really like this. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and close Word, so you know I've got it selected. So I'm going to go up to Word, quit Word. All right, Safari, quit Safari. All right. So if you're looking for the Start menu, if you're a PC user, you're probably looking for it. How do I turn the computer off? Well, you're looking for the Apple menu right here, top left-hand corner. It's always in the same spot. So you're looking for the Apple menu. It's the equivalent of the Start menu. So you can see here I've got Sleep, Restart, Shut Down, and Log Out myself. All right. What? And it's not showing you, it sounds like it's not showing you on my screen. All right, so if you'll look in, I do want to point out in the reference guide, I've got images of just about everything I'm talking about today. So if it's not going to show you, which it doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't look like it's showing you, then we'll try to, if you'll look in there, it'll show you. All right, system preferences. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I got to that from the Apple menu in the top left. So system preferences, that's kind of what we talked about earlier. So we kind of got to know the personality a little bit of the Mac. This is where we get into controlling it and making it just how we want it in a way that's comfortable for us, right? So I really want to point this out to you. We're not going to go through all of these options today because time does not permit. But I want to highlight just a few of them for you. So ones that are very helpful that you'll probably want to use at some point. The first one is the general preference right here. This has to do with the different color of the appearance of different bars, the highlight color if you want to highlight text. There you go. There's some different highlight colors. And I do want to emphasize this is a system-wide, so computer, universal in the computer preferences. So whereas with Safari, if you were changing Safari preferences or just to apply to Safari, this is for the whole computer. All right, so we've got some other scrolling options and different items like that. So if we want to go back to system preferences, we just click on Show All. There we go. There's desktop and screensaver. Now, I want to point out the dock because I've had issues in the past with the dock. So you've got some different size options. You can shrink it down really tiny, or you can make it nice and large. You'll notice the more icons you have in your dock, the smaller it's going to squish them in. So it makes them smaller. You could try to make them, if you don't have as many, you can make them a little bit larger than you can see currently on my screen. And we've got the position on the screen. So this is another thing we kind of talked about earlier. You can put it wherever you want. You can put it on the left, the right, or the bottom. And then this next feature I want to talk about because, so let's say if you're using a lab computer or someone else's computer and they have their preferences set up, they can set it, if you'll notice this one right here where it says automatically hide and show the dock. If I click on that, you notice the dock disappeared. So if I come down to the bottom, just like I did earlier when I expanded that window, I just mouse down to the bottom. I don't have to click or anything, and you'll notice that the dock pops back up. So if you're using someone else's computer and a Macintosh computer and you can't find the dock, well, it may be that's because they have their preferences set that way. So just mouse down to the bottom, or if it doesn't show up at the bottom, remember it can be on the left or the right as well. So if I change it to left, there it pops out from there. All right, so I'm going to turn that off so we can see it. One reason you might want to use that is if you wanted, let's say you wanted a little more screen real estate and you wanted to, didn't want the dock to take up space all the time. That might be one reason to do that. All right, we're back to Show All. You can do some language preferences here. There's Spotlight preferences. Spotlight is the search. And there's your printers and keyboards, displays. I want to take a moment to talk about mice. The mice with the Mac, or the mouse with the Mac, is a little bit different, and this is one of the most, our labs have Mac computers, so this is one of the most frequent questions I get is, how do I handle the Mac? I don't have it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive in. So let's see, the mouse. So I've got the preferences. You'll see it's up here on the screen. So the first one I want to talk about is just the regular mouse that comes with the wire. So you'll see it, there's the image up on the screen, and it looks like it only has one button. But you'll notice here, there's two options. You can set a secondary button to make it right click. There is an option to where you can just set it to primary button, then this whole thing would act as one button. But I like to right click, so I'm going to set that. You also have the option if you're left-handed, you can switch those as well. So then we've got the tracking ball right now that's turned off, but you can turn that on. These top options here, you'll see these on several other Mac or the other mouse options, but there's the tracking. That's how fast your mouse is going to move across the screen. I'm going to turn that back down a little bit. Then there's the double click speed. I like this one. If you have any difficulty double clicking quickly, you can slow down the double click speed. So if normally if I double click, it's click click, but if I want to, I can make it slower, bring it down to be click click, and then it would still function like a double click. The scrolling is also another speed. You can scroll faster or slower. So now I'm going to minimize this, and I want to show you the Magic Mouse. And to do that, I'm going to turn my webcam on. All right, hello. All right, so this is the Magic Mouse. There you go. And it looks like one solid surface, right? There we go. There's the Magic Mouse. All right, bye-bye. Okay, so the Magic Mouse, it's a little bit different. The really neat thing about it is the whole surface is touch sensitive. So you can swipe up and down, side to side, kind of like you would on a trackpad or a laptop. You also can left click and right click on it as well, just like you can on any other mouse. It looks like there's one button, just that one button, the whole surface, but there really are multiple because you can right click, left click, and you can scroll up and down it. Or if you're in Safari, you can swipe side to side and go back and forth between pages that you've had open. All right. So we've talked, oh my goodness, we've talked about so much already. Okay, Laureen, if you would, we're going to kind of do another little test question to see where we're at. So she's going to pop back on and
Unmuted.
poll for us.
Okay. Let's see here. Emily's going to test my knowledge, so let me launch that poll. Okay, on a Mac, what is the equivalent of my computer on a PC? No idea? Pathfinder, Finder, Pathways, or what's my computer? Hopefully you know the answer to that. And the polls are coming in. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and we'll launch the results there. And the Finder, yay! So let me go ahead and turn this back to Emily. And by the way, I noticed that we had a couple of questions coming in, and I was remiss to mention earlier that we will allot time at the end for questions. And so I'm going to turn this back over to Emily, but she is going to give you some time at the end to ask questions. So you can go ahead and get those ready for us.
All right. Wow. All right. Wow. You guys are smart. You got it. All right. So since we had a little question about Finder, let's talk a little bit more about Finder. It's something that you're going to use probably a lot in your time with the Mac. So I'm going to close that again and show you how I did it. All right. So in the dock on the left-hand side, there's that icon I showed you earlier in the slides, Finder. I just click on it and it opens up. I want to show you another way to do that. If you didn't have it on your dock, you could always, anytime you click in the background, you'll notice at the top left it says Finder. That's because Finder is an application that is always running on a Mac. And that kind of confused me at first, but it's always there. Just like your file cabinet would always be there. It doesn't turn off. It's always there. So we're going to click, whoo, my mouse just ran away. All right, so Finder. And I'm going to go File and New Finder window. There we go. So that's just another way that you can open it up. All right, so let's look a little bit at the structure here. You'll notice over here on the left, yours might look a little bit different depending on what folders you've got. But you'll probably have something with the music and pictures. You've definitely got something for documents and downloads, your desktop, and then here's your applications. So remember when we talked earlier about Launchpad, this is another way to get to applications. You can click here, and that is your full list of applications. And you can see there are a lot on this computer. That's why Launchpad might be helpful, might make it a little easier to find what you're looking for. All right, so there's Safari, Notes, Photo Booth. All right, so applications. Next, I want to come over here to the documents and show you a little bit of the structure. So let's make it a little bit larger there. So if I click on my name here, I've got different, I've got some items in there. You'll notice if I click on it, I like this one because I can click on it and it will show you the structure and it just keeps going. So you can see, kind of gives you a nice view of where you're going. All right, and that's the column view. So I want to point out right up here towards the top in the gray bar, there's 4 different views that you can choose from, and sometimes I'll switch between them because it's a little bit easier to find possibly what you're looking for with a different view. All right, so this is the first one here. Let's go applications and we'll look at it this way. All right, so there we go, lots of options there. So the first one is there's the icon list, and next we've got Here's just a basic list. You can sort it that way. So if you're looking through your files and you're trying to find it, can't find it by name, and you're like, well, I know I created it yesterday. Well, date modified, there's your file. So that kind of helps me sometimes. That's one reason I like this view. And then we showed the column view. This is a view that I really like. This last one here, it's the cover flow. So if I'm going through, I'm going to go back to documents in my folder here. If I'm in the cover flow view, it gives you that nice size preview at the top. So let's say if I'm in my logos file and I've created a bunch of logos and different variations and I'm scrolling through it trying to find the one I'm looking for, it's nice to sometimes have a quick preview. I'm like, oh, there's that one I was looking for, and I can open it up that way. All right. So does anybody have a favorite? If you want to, you can type it in the chat. All right. So there's the 4 different views that we talked about. Next, I want to talk about the trash really quickly. So if you'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to go ahead and close Finder. Bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there is a little trash icon. And you'll notice the trash icon has some trash in it. That's because I've thrown some items away. So if I double click on it, it opens up and I can see what's currently in the trash. You'll notice there's a little button right here that I can say empty. That would permanently delete the item. So if I just want to clean up my desktop and I throw it all in the trash and then I realize, oh my goodness, I threw away my presentation for tomorrow. Well, as long as I haven't emptied it, I can double click, come in and find what I was looking for. And you could just click and drag that. Well, you can't drag it on your desktop, but I could drag it over into, let's see, documents. All right, so I've pulled it out of the trash. Another option here. So you've got Finder. There we go. I've pulled everything out of the trash now, so there's nothing in there. But what we can do, you'll notice right here, can you see? Okay, good. You can see the menus, and it wasn't showing earlier. All right. So if you'll notice in the menu, there's the empty trash button. I don't have anything there to empty, so it's grayed out. Same with the secure empty trash. The secure empty trash is a way, basically the computer will write something over that information so that no one could ever go back and pull that information out. So if you had a student's record or something like that, it's secure empty the trash. You just want to make sure that you really don't want that anymore. So that's one option right there. All right, so that's pretty much it for the trash. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to point it out because it is important. Oh, and you'll notice since I pulled everything out of the trash, it's now an empty trash bin. So, all right. The last thing we're going to talk about is really that third item on our objectives for today is launching applications. So we talked a little bit about Launchpad and Finder. Let's talk about Spotlight next, and we'll get into more detail on the others next. Spotlight is at the top right-hand side of your screen. All right, it's that little, I think it looks more like a looking glass than a spotlight, but there you go, or a magnifying glass. So there's Spotlight. If I'm looking for a specific folder, so let's say I'm going to look for Mac for Newbies. Notice I start typing it in and it showed it a top hit right there. That's what I'm looking for. And it even gives me a preview. How handy. All right. So, but you can type in all different kinds and different things there. Let's see. InDesign, Illustrator, and you could just click on it and it would open it up. So Spotlight is very handy if you have something and you're not really sure where it is. It's a quick way to find something. Next, let's go ahead and look at I'm going to actually pull up Launchpad. There's Launchpad. So if it's on the front page, it's very handy. I could just click on it and open it. There's also the search at the top, but sometimes I may have to sort through several different pages. That may or may not be helpful for you. Let's go ahead and click on Finder. Again, with Finder, if I go to Applications and they're in alphabetical order, I can easily find what it is I'm looking for and then double click on that program. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and open one up. We'll open up Adobe Flash. So I double click on it and you'll notice the icon starts jumping up and down, or it was jumping up and down. That's perfectly normal. It just means that it's starting. So now I'm opening it. You see the little rainbow wheel, and basically that just means your computer is thinking. Okay? So while you've got that loading, I want to talk about, or while it's loading, I want to talk about one other thing, and that is the force quit. So we talked about quitting an application, and the force quit is kind of like a last-ditch resort, right? Because you want to shut down an application properly if it's at all possible, right? So I would go up to File, oh, sorry, Finder. You want to go to the application menu. So you would go to Finder. Oh, I'm sorry, not Finder. Flash. There you go. I had to click on the Flash window. Flash and quit Flash. But let's say, for example, for some reason, we had what I like to call the rainbow wheel of death, and your computer has stalled out and it will not, for any reason, or will not for anything, it won't quit. You can't get it to stop. It's basically frozen. Force quit is an option there. So this, again, it's in your handout if you want to look at this, the reference material, it's in there. But I want to briefly kind of show it to you. So if you go up to the Apple menu, which is again in that top left, and I don't know if it's showing it to you or not, but it's in the Apple, which is the system menu, and then you just select force quit. When you click on that, it will pull up the list of currently running applications, and you just select whichever one you want and click force quit. Right? So that's one really nice way to do it. Occasionally, if the computer recognizes it's stalled out, you can right-click on the icon and click force quit. Right now, it realizes it doesn't need to force quit, so I could just click quit normally. It's another way to quit an application. All right. Then I've got some other options in your reference guide, but I'm not going to take the time to go through all of those now. So let's go ahead and quit Flash. Oh, another shortcut, and I don't believe I have this written down. So you might want to write this down if you have a pen and paper nearby. But it's the shortcut keys with a Mac are almost always with the command, well, a lot of them are with the command key. So you'll notice on either side of your space bar, there's the command button. So if you want to quit an application, you want to make sure that the one you have that you want to quit is the one you have selected, because I've quit the wrong application before. So I want to quit Flash, so I have it selected. I see it in the menu. I hit Command Q, and it quits it. That's one shortcut that I use every day over and over again. Command Q. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is how to add an application to the dock. So I'm going to come over here. I've got so many applications on the dock here, it's going to be hard to find one. All right, Acrobat Reader, that is not on the dock. Okay, so I'm going to double click and open it up. Okay, there we go. And sure. All right, so Acrobat Reader has launched. So what if I know, hey, I'm going to use this program every day or all the time, and I want to have it right at hand? I can right-click on that icon on the dock, Options, Keep in the dock. So now I have it there right where I want it, nice and easy. What if I say I really don't want that there? Options, I can click that again, and when I close it, which I'll do right now, I've got it. There we go. I've got it selected, and I'll go up to Adobe Reader, quit Adobe Reader, and it goes away from the dock because I turned it off. So that's one easy way that you can add or remove things from the dock. All right. So if you haven't, okay, looks like we've got a lot of questions in here. So I'm going to turn it over to Lorene. If you have more questions, feel free to type them in now. Lorene's going to wrap up some additional information, and then I'm going to look through the questions while she's doing that.
Okay. While we wrap up, if you are looking in your go-to training control panel, you may have it minimized, and again, to maximize it, you would just click on that arrow. I just want to come down to that materials section and just talk to you a little bit about the resources that we have. There is the Apple for Newbies handout, and many of the tips and tricks that Emily provided are in that handout. She also gave a link for additional training, and that's the Apple support page. And then there is a data backup, and this hyperlink that you're seeing for data backup, that is really for our faculty and staff. We do have a new service on campus, and I just wanted to make you aware of it. It's Crash Plan Pro, and it's a secure backup for your files, and we really want to encourage everyone to take a look at that. It's for primary machines, again, for faculty and staff, but that's a new tool for us, and we want to make it available to you. A couple other things. If you do have any questions or if you have any issues with your computers, don't forget that you can always call the help desk at 8HELP, and you can reach us also through help@smu.edu. And I'm going to go ahead and I guess turn this back to Emily. I know we had at least 2 or 3 questions, and she'll begin to answer those. Okay, just bear with us for 1 second. Emily and I are going to switch computers. Ironically, she got the rainbow wheel of death on hers, so I'm going to give her my computer. Hold on a second. Thank you. All right, thank you, Lorraine.
Okay, so I'm looking through. There's some great questions in there. So let me scroll up just a little bit. Okay, so the first one. We've got a word question. I'm going to launch that and we'll come back to that one in just a minute. Okay. And the SMU background. Okay, so I'm going to ask where they can get the SMU background. I'm going to have to ask one of the guys in our team because he put that on there. So let me see if I can get it from him and we'll share it with you. Okay. And mission control. Is there a way to evenly divide the windows in a program? For example, one is working on a combination of Word and Excel documents and needs to cut and paste from one to the other often. In Windows, one can choose show windows side by side, cascade. Let's see. Okay, so one way that you could do that, if you had multiple windows on the screen and you want to have them all showing, one easy way that you could do that is just to resize them. So I'm going to open up a new Word document here. All right, I'm going to resize it, just drag it over to the side there. And then I'm going to open up Excel. While that's opening up, let's look at the Word question here. So if you want to do a new Word document, that little create new Word document, that's the button right up there at the top. And you'll notice I now have 2 documents. I'll type something here so it looks different. There we go. I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I see why you can't see my screen. Okay. Let's see. It's still spinning it. All right. All right, sorry about that. Okay, now can you see the screen now? Great. Okay, sorry about that. I was just talking away. Thank you for saying that, Janet. Okay. All right. So let me back up a little bit. So I opened up Word. I'm going to close this one here and not save it. So I opened up Word and I just resized the window to move it over. Then I opened up Excel. I'm going to double click for a new Excel workbook. I'm just going to click in the top there and then resize this so I've got them side by side. That's one way that you could work with multiple programs at the same time and just copy and paste text from one. So I'm going to copy it, Command C for copy, or you can go up to File to do that. And then I'm going to do Command V to paste. So I could go back and forth between them. And you notice as I go back and forth, the menu at the top changes. So whichever one you have active, that's the one that the menu is going to reflect. Okay. Now, we had the question about not being able to open a second Word document. So I want to point out this little button right here that create new document. You can do a drop down and select new blank document, just that or some other options. So I'm going to click new blank document and it opens up a second one for me. If that's not working for you, there may be an issue. Does that answer your question? Laylee, does that answer your question? Great. Yay. Wonderful. Okay. And that was and we were talking about multiple windows too. So if mission control really isn't for necessarily resizing different windows, I'm going to hit the mission control button, which is F3. So you see now I can see different ones. You can click on whichever one you want. I'm going to go ahead and resize some just so it shows a little more obviously. All right, there we go. So I can click on whichever one I want and it brings it to the front. I can also go to dashboard. Dashboard is just something if you want to look at a calendar or clock or a little a calculator. There's your option. So dashboard, I want to go back, so here we go. All right. The dashboard is, it should also be at the bottom there. All right, let's see. As far as keyboard combination keys, to be honest, I don't have them all memorized either. There's some that I use quite frequently, and those are the ones I have memorized. But I would recommend, we've got that resource for the Mac Basics, and they most likely, I believe they've got something on there. If you look around on there or search it, we can definitely look for a resource to share with you. I've seen some before that have, and sometimes they're dependent upon the program as well, but we'll find a resource for that and share with you. Let's see, how interchangeable are Macs and PCs? Can my boss have a Mac and me a PC? That's a great question. Lorene has a PC and I have a Mac, and we don't really have any problems. The only issue I can think of, really, I can't think of much of an issue with it. There's file types, so if I've got, but it really doesn't matter if you have a Mac or a PC, but if I've got a Photoshop document, she would need to have, if I send it to her as a Photoshop file, she would need to have Photoshop to open it, but you can have Photoshop on a PC. So I can't think of any reason off the top of my head that it would be a problem. Okay, another question. How do I move between two Word documents or Excel documents open? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Let me close I'm not going to save. I'm going to close the Excel there. I'm going to open up a third new document. Let's make this larger so we can see it. And we'll highlight it. Okay. Let me add something. And I'm just gonna make them a little bit different so we can see which is which. All right, so we've got different ones here, and I'm gonna make it fit the whole screen. So I've got one open. If I wanted to switch to another, my personal preference, what I would do is probably hit Mission Control and just come over here and say, I want document 1. I can click on that and it would bring it up. Or if I want document 3, there we go. And you'll notice at the very top here, this is full screen application. So if you had an application open up to full screen, it'll show it in the top part up here like that. The one with the word new in it says. But I like Mission Control for that because I only have to hit one button and I don't have to take my hand off the keyboard to do that. Is there a shortcut key for that? Yes, it's F3. So if you hit F3, it opens up Mission Control. You click on whatever you want, and it goes right to it. So these are really good questions. You guys are doing excellent. All right. Well, does anyone else have any more questions? We are about out of time. All right. Well, if you do have any questions, please feel free to email us, and I will get back to all of you with a resource for keyboard shortcuts. And I think that's it for today. My computer's still frozen up. If you do have any,
that's another great question. I'll get back to that in just a second. So if you do have any questions about or computer problems, please reach out to the help desk, the IT help desk. They're excellent for that kind of thing. But I am going to reach out to you with the keyboard shortcuts. And then Tech, you have a great question there. Do you recommend a system to have both Windows and Apple running? I use VMware Fusion. I've got that on my computer, so I can run a PC platform and a Mac platform at the same time. I have had some issues, so I won't say it's perfect by any means. That's one option. We do have, or there are other options where you can boot up your machine to one side, but then you would have to reboot up your machine to open the other side. And then let me get back to you on that, Tech, on the specifics of that. I'll get you some more information. Softwares to keep your Mac clean. I'm sure there are. That one I would have to get back to you on as well. Great questions. Well, thank you all so much for coming today. And we've run out of time, but it's been a great session. You all have had excellent questions, and I hope this has been helpful. And there will be a short survey that pops up. We really do take those surveys seriously. So thanks so much for coming.